In Southeast Asia, a long-standing territorial dispute continues to strain relations between Malaysia and the Philippines, the contest over Sabah. Sabah, rich in resources and strategically located on Borneo's northern tip, is administered by Malaysia but claimed by the Philippines, rooted in the legacy of the Sulu Sultanate. This is not just a historical footnote. The issue periodically erupts, disrupting diplomacy and regional cooperation. The dispute centers on international law, historical treaties, and the meaning of sovereignty in a post-colonial world. Sabah's economic value and its position along vital maritime routes make it a regional powerhouse for Malaysia, while for the Philippines, the claim is a matter of national honor. The disagreement complicates ASEAN unity as unresolved colonial-era issues continue to shape the region. Recent years have seen diplomatic spats, legal battles, and even armed standoffs, proving the conflict is far from settled. At its core, a 19th century document in a single word: was Sabah leased or sold? As of August 2025, the dispute remains unresolved, affecting millions and the stability of Southeast Asia. To understand the Sabah dispute, we must revisit the 17th century Sultanate of Sulu, a maritime power whose influence spanned the Sulu archipelago and parts of Borneo. In 1658, the Sultan of Brunei reportedly ceded North Borneo to the Sultan of Sulu as a reward for military assistance. For centuries, the Sultanate governed the territory, establishing the foundation for the Philippine claim. The Philippines considers itself the successor to the Sultanate, inheriting its unresolved territorial rights. This is not seen as expansionism, but as a pursuit of historical inheritance. The Sultanate's authority over North Borneo was recognized by regional powers and European traders, further strengthening the Philippine argument. As colonial influence grew, the Sultanate's power waned, facing pressure from Spain, Britain, and the Dutch. In 1878, the Sultan entered a pivotal agreement with European traders, a document whose ambiguous language would ignite a dispute lasting to this day. The fate of Sabah was sealed in this moment, setting the stage for a century of contention. The heart of the Sabah dispute is the 1878 agreement between the Sultan of Sulu and European traders. The contract granted rights over North Borneo in exchange for annual payments, but the key word, pajak, remains hotly debated. The Philippines and the Sultan's heirs argue pajak means lease, not sale, implying sovereignty was never surrendered. Malaysia and Britain interpret pajak as cession, claiming the territory was permanently transferred. The annual payments, continued by Malaysia until 2013, are seen by the Philippines as rent, by Malaysia as a cession fee. The ambiguity of pajak, compounded by differing treaty versions, has fueled over a century of legal and diplomatic wrangling. British-produced English versions use cede, but the Philippines insists the original Malay text should prevail. This single word has transformed a commercial contract into a complex international dispute. The result: two nations, two narratives, and no resolution in sight. The 1878 agreement remains the crux of the Sabah question. After 1878, the British North Borneo Company administered Sabah under a royal charter, later becoming a British protectorate in 1888. The Philippines argues these transfers were illegitimate. If Sabah was only leased, Britain had no right to transfer sovereignty. The pivotal moment came in the 1960s, as Britain prepared to decolonize and form Malaysia, including Sabah. The Philippines objected, but the Cobbold Commission found most Sabahans favored joining Malaysia. Despite protests, Malaysia was formed in 1963, with Sabah as a state. For Malaysia, this act of self-determination is the final word. For the Philippines, it's an unresolved colonial handover. The dispute over legitimacy and self-determination remains at the heart of the conflict. The Philippine claim to Sabah is enshrined in national policy, based on the 1878 agreement and succession from the Sultanate of Sulu. In 1962, the Philippines filed its claim with the UN, maintaining the issue as unresolved. Annual payments from Malaysia to the Sultan's heirs, continued for decades, are cited as evidence of a lease. Philippine law, through Republic Act 5446, keeps the claim alive, and no administration has formally renounced it. The claim is a matter of national pride and domestic law, resurfacing during diplomatic tensions. Manila argues that the 1962 Cobbold Commission didn't offer Sabahans the option to join the Philippines, so true self-determination never occurred. The legal and sovereign status of Sabah, from the Philippine perspective, remains an open question. The issue endures, shaping Philippine foreign policy and identity. Malaysia's stance is absolute. Sabah is an integral part of its federation, and the claim is closed. The cornerstone is self-determination. Sabahans chose to join Malaysia in 1963, confirmed by the Cobbold Commission and the UN. Malaysia views the 1878 agreement as a cession, not a lease, and the annual payments as a cession fee. Payments stopped in 2013 after an armed incursion by Sulu claimants, which Malaysia saw as a breach of the agreement. Decades of administration, international recognition, and Sabah's integration into Malaysia reinforce its sovereignty. Malaysia rejects all attempts to revive the claim, seeing it as a violation of its territorial integrity. For Kuala Lumpur, the issue is settled. There is nothing left to discuss. The Sabah dispute erupted violently in 2013, when armed followers of a Sulu claimant landed in Lahad Datu, sparking a deadly standoff. The incursion led Malaysia to halt annual payments and establish a permanent security presence in eastern Sabah. Diplomatic relations soured, with Malaysia blaming the Philippines for not preventing the incident. The conflict shifted to the courts in 2022, when a French arbitration court ordered Malaysia to pay billions to the Sultan's heirs for stopping payments. Malaysia rejected the ruling, challenging it in European courts, while the legal battle continues. Diplomatic spats have flared, with strong statements from both sides reigniting tensions. The dispute remains highly sensitive, with every move scrutinized and sovereignty fiercely defended. Recent flashpoints, armed conflict, legal battles, and public diplomacy keep the issue alive. As of August 2025, the Sabah question is far from dormant. The risk of future flare-ups remains real. The Sabah dispute is a persistent challenge for ASEAN, whose principles of consensus and non-interference limit its ability to mediate. Malaysia sees the issue as internal, blocking any formal ASEAN intervention. The dispute rarely appears on ASEAN's agenda, undermining the bloc's cohesion and ambitions for deeper integration. Practical consequences are felt in the Sulu-Celebes Seas, where unresolved sovereignty complicates security cooperation against piracy and terrorism. Trilateral patrols exist, but mistrust lingers, hampering intelligence sharing. The dispute also limits the potential of Philippines-Malaysia relations, fueling diplomatic friction and nationalist rhetoric. For ASEAN to mature, it must find ways to help members manage such disputes. Until then, Sabah remains a thorn in regional unity and a reminder of unresolved history. As of August 2025, the Sabah dispute is at a stalemate. Malaysia governs, the world recognizes its sovereignty, and the Philippines maintains its claim. The recent arbitration award has emboldened the Sultan's heirs, but enforcement is uncertain. For Malaysia, Sabah's future is as a secure, prosperous state. For the Philippines, the claim is a matter of historical justice and national identity. The people of Sabah, diverse and integrated into Malaysia, have little mainstream desire for union with the Philippines. Their self-determination is central to Malaysia's argument. The core question remains: how can a 19th century dispute be resolved in the 21st century? Legal and historical arguments are irreconcilable, and political will for compromise is lacking. The dispute is likely to simmer, risking future flare-ups and regional instability. Sabah's story is unfinished, its final chapter unwritten. Only time will tell if a resolution is possible, or if the dispute will persist for another century.